Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Firsties. I'm your host, Mila. I'm so proud of myself. This is one of the first episodes where I've actually remembered to introduce myself. Other times I just jump into it. So today I'm very excited for this episode. I have Vibe here, aka Little Vibe on IG. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yep, and on a Saturday too, guys. She pulled up on a Saturday, so I really do appreciate your time, love.
Anything for the firsties.
Oh, thank you, thank you. So you are a little backstory is your business partner and your partner reached out to me and said, "Hey, I think Vi would be great on your show."
Yeah.
Which is something I am falling in love with everyone who's reaching out and saying like, "Hey, get this person on the show." It's just awesome because I get to meet new dope people like yourself.
Yeah.
So you are a female engineer.
Uh-huh.
You're a musician.
Yep.
I listened to your song. Is it Days?
Yeah.
That's a vibe.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I try to do a deep dive before the guest comes on. So I want to jump right in on what is your first gen experience? Take it to wherever you want to go.
Okay. So I would say my first gen experience was like really, I guess, trying to like find ways where I connect with the culture and then finding myself also because it was very confusing for me.
Were you born here?
Yeah, I was born here.
Okay.
Like my parents moved here. I'm first born here.
Got it.
So, you still have, your parents are still Ethiopian. They still came from there.
And they rep.
Oh, they rep. They're like, we're there. Baby,
Right.
in this house, we're in Ethiopia. Like,
Well, as it should be. It should. Yeah.
But just like there's pros and cons to everything. And I always say like whatever trauma I've experienced, I know my parents have experienced 10 times and just going back and back.
Talk about it.
Yeah, I feel like it's just been self-discovery, understanding that whoever I am, whether my culture being a part of me, but also it isn't me and I don't have to be these certain standards, this life is about figuring out who you are and allowing your culture to be a part of you, sharing that with other people. But the bad parts, to leave that where it is, not take it with you and, like breaking generational curses. So, and that's been so in my mind these days, for real. So I think, honestly, breaking generational curses would probably be the theme of I Say That.
Yeah.
Finding to love it, finding to understand it, not,
Yeah, absolutely.
Then,
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I've talked about this in other episodes, but like a lot of what the show is taking whatever trauma that you have because you went through it for whatever reason and then turning that into your triumphs, whether it's like, let's say, for example, as a kid, you didn't get all the attention that you necessarily needed. But then when you grow up, you're a very self-sufficient and very decisive person because you have to figure it out on your own, right? Yeah. So, of course, there are certain things that maybe we did not want to experience because of the trauma behind that. But hey, we're still here today. And I don't know about you, but like I like myself as a person. I'm like, I think I'm doing all right. So I wouldn't trade anything for the world. But I totally get that. There are some things that like, let's leave that back in like the 90s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When I was born.
Yeah. But some things like I wouldn't be me without, and like need them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And then there's parts of our culture that I'm so blessed and lucky to be a part of.
Yeah.
Like we come in, we talk, family, food, faith. I know like if I was down bad, I will never be without like a home or a meal or whatever. You know what I mean?
The community.
Yeah. Even this, it's like we're like, essentially I've invited, this is the first time we're meeting on camera, but there's a underlying like understanding and connection that we have versus someone that's not part of our culture. And what I mean is just like culture, meaning, the Indian culture, Hispanic culture, like we still have this like common thread.
Yeah.
It's like, babes, I see you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And even when you see Ethiopians everywhere, it's like seeing little family members. Like we treat each other with love, even if I don't know you and I'm just seeing you on the street. Like, Habasha?
Yeah.
So even that type of community, even with people you don't know, but people who are part of your culture, So I love that about our culture as well.
It is, yeah. It runs deep for sure. So you grew up here. What was your like... So talking about the first gen experience, what was your like I feel like high school is a big part of first gen, like middle school, all that playground stuff, but high school, what was that like for you? Did you feel like an other? Did you feel like how was that? I remember I was just watching Dave Chappelle. He's like one of my favorite comedians, and he shares like it's just funny. He shared like his parents did just enough so he could grow up broke around white people.
Yeah.
And I was like, noted.
Yo,
like,
that's crazy.
Like, you know what I mean? Like my parents worked hard, and I had a very comfortable childhood. You know what I mean? But there was a sense of when I was around certain people, the food that I brought to school or like my accent when I eat, like whatever it is, you know what I mean? Even though I really grew up here, you did feel like the other sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. My experience was definitely like that for one.
Yeah.
Like I had an older brother too. So I was always, people didn't even know my name. I was like this person's younger sister, you know, and then also in terms of being Ethiopian, but then even in our own community, can still be separation between whether if you're born there, you're not born there, you're more cultured, you're less cultured, depending upon how people accept you. So in high school, I even felt like, and I changed my name. This is a big thing too. I'm one of those. Yeah, I changed my name.
Oh, so your name is Vibe.
No, so my name is Michaela.
Okay.
That's my American name.
That's what I saw on your Gmail.
And it's not even spelled like the American, anyways. So my name was Mekdalawit.
Okay.
And then obviously went through school. And it just made me feel so much more other than name, and how much people didn't try to, I don't know, it can seem like a small thing to some people, but for me, the way that people didn't care to like, it just felt like, what are you? Like, what is that? You know? Like, so much so that I stripped a part of my identity away, which hindsight 2020, I'm like, was that necessary to change my whole entire
But it was
name?
what you were going in that time.
Yeah.
That's how you were feeling that time.
Yeah. So, and I know there's a lot of Habeshas that have actually went through that too, changing their name, and like, some of us to the trying to be too detaching from our culture, you know? And when you fall into that, you can kind of lose part of who you are because you're trying to fit in with, like, of course, living in a white area with a lot of rich people, and you feel like you don't fit in. Your family is like struggling to stay there, but they're there and you guys are good. But it's
just a different experience versus going over to their people. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And yeah, a lot of people fall to that, and I can even be guilty of that as well. Yeah. And then I think it was one of those things where, like in high school, all I care about was kikiing with my friends. Yeah. Like that is all I care about, right? And so I think that, and then when I got, it wasn't after college when I came back home, which we're all part of what they call the boomerang generation, which is like you go to college and then you come back and live home, which that's a whole other TED Talk. I just saw like how much my parents really wanted to help me to be successful and stuff that, you know, some of my other friends who weren't part of our culture necessarily, like, the government says you're 18-year adult, you're out of this house. Yeah. And like, again, I could live in my parents' house till I'm 40. Yeah, you know what I mean?
No, seriously.
And my mom will still cook me meals, all those things. Those are all beautiful things that we should all very much cherish because they're only here for a certain amount of time. Yeah. But it is difficult. And what you're talking about is like that kind of transition between those two worlds. Like, where the hell do we
exist?
Lie? Yeah. And truly, the only time I really felt looking back, safe, heard, creatively, all those things were with my cousins because they understood it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like literally. Really, like I'm not even talking about the other day I got an invite for ugly Christmas party and I saw on the roster in the group chat that one of my cousins, Miriam, was not in the group chat. So texted the one who started the Christmas party and I said, hey, where is Miriam? Yeah. And then she was like, oh, the group chat was too large, so don't. She was like, oh, I'm gonna start another one. I'm like, okay, cool, because I need that. Yeah. I need that one cousin
that gets you.
That really gets me. Yeah, because they understand that experience. That's essentially what I want this show to be at. But yeah, you're right. It's, man. I mean, looking back, did you ever think back to like high school, even college? I'm like, girl, you were in so much pain, or just like self-doubt, or you just, girl, you didn't know. I still don't know. Like, let's not get twisted. I still don't know. But back then I'm like, dang, girl, you really were just trying to make someone like care about you or love you, whether it's friendship, not even just like relationships, but
or like, girl, did you love yourself, girl? Like, let's be for real, girl. You wasn't loving yourself, girl. So you was out here wilding. Like looking back, I'm like, I don't even feel like the same person at all, like I was in college.
Talk about it.
Because you have to be like, okay, I feel pain. I need to start feeling that stuff and start looking for happiness and understanding that can exist. Because again, our parents come here and they're like in survival mode because you're coming to a whole new country with nothing and you have to build from nothing. So we watch our parents build from nothing and we get into that like it's the same thing for us, you know, that mindset, like we have to survive. But in reality, it's like our parents came here and laid a foundation. So with the love and community we have with them, it's like taking that and you making something out of it type thing. So when I had to sit with myself and like, I had to do a lot of I think we all do, you know, deep diving for real.
And some people will live their lives and they'll never actually go through it because the only way to get through it is to get through. I'm still not there either, but I definitely have started. And to the listeners out there, it is not fun.
It's not.
It is painful.
Like, hello.
Like it is a lot. And sometimes I would even say you don't have to fully go through it, but like maybe piece by piece. Every Monday, sit down with yourself, you know what I mean, to really, or have a conversation with that person who hurt you or what have you, because part of your childhood, like your brain puts that trauma somewhere, and someone could fact check me on that because it's so real.
Yeah, and I've heard like in like even in your muscles and like literal areas of your body
remembers. Yeah, isn't that insane?
It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's why you behave in the way that you do sometimes. Yeah, absolutely, that's real. Yeah. Now you mentioned happiness. Now in our culture, I can only speak for my family and the culture that I grew up in. You know, happiness isn't, although my parents and my family always mentioned, like, you know, we work this hard so you guys could be happy, you know, be safe, have the things that you need and stuff, which again, shout out to my parents. They did everything that they could with the information that they had at the time. I have to tell myself that literally every day to get through it. But something about like, you know, I think what you mentioned, like all I saw were survival mode. So that's all I know. So I work really hard to the point where it just doesn't make sense anymore. And I'm like, why am I working this hard? Like it's actually not necessary. You could take a break. You know what I mean? But that's all I know. That's all I see my parents do. You know what I mean? And I think they worked that hard for me to also have work ethic. Like they didn't want me to be an asshole, but you know, they definitely don't want me to have the life that they did. The whole point is for them to like elevate. And I always say on the show, like, I think my parents gave me the chance to achieve generational worth. Well, they might not have done it, right? Which is an honor, which is like, that's a huge thing, right? Because on another episode you mentioned, like, we were one decision away. Well, I don't know about you, but I was born in Addis where, honey, I could have stayed there and it could have been a whole other life. There would, you know, or maybe there will. We don't know, right?
I mean, no, there wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's something you only brought to fruition.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah.
You know, it's real. And so talking about happiness, are you on the journey to find happiness? How do you define happiness in your brain? I'll share once you share yours.
So I think I've changed my definition. Okay. I feel like my whole life, it's been like, I don't even know if it's been a destination because the survival mode thing never really made me see an end. It was just like work and like, everything will come together if I just keep working, you know? Then at some point you're like, okay, let me slow down. Like what's around me? What's the point? Like we were talking about before we started, intention behind whatever I'm doing. It was like that. That's where I feel like my happiness was. Not what I had, not, okay, I have an apartment. Okay, I've moved out of my parents' house. I'm doing this thing, whether it's my passion or school or going on with my career. It's just like, the intention behind what I'm doing, finding purpose in it, for me, I think was my happiness, and stripping away like the insecurities, which helped me with the self-love thing, stripping away all the insecurities. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, all the little things that made me insecure, at the end of the day, when I have my intention and purpose, it's like that stuff gets washed away.
It becomes much, much smaller than the bigger picture. Wow, that's a really great answer. Wow. I mean, for me, I feel like when I was younger, I definitely thought the way that I saw my parents do it or my people ahead of me, I thought happiness was a destination for sure. And then plot twist, it is not. Like, it is not. And I find that like for a good amount of my years, like from, I think, 18 to 22, I've talked about it before, I just thought there was like a gray cloud over me. I think it was a transition from being at home and then going to college and things, and then not being, I still performed well, but just not as, I had to attain the grade average that I used to get in high school because it was just different. Like even as simple as like, I didn't realize like I actually didn't know how to study. I knew how to mentally memorize something and then regurgitate it on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
But as far as actually like critical thinking and actually consuming the information, had no clue. So college was a struggle a little bit in that. Yeah. And for a lot of first gens, not even just hobby shop people, but all first gens, like our identity is in our performance. Like, what are you contributing to your grades or whatever? And looking back, like just looking at like the state of the world right now and how, you know, the number one thing that we always say is health, family, love. Grades, that's like number 17 on the list. Like, that's not even priority. You know what I mean? So just kind of changing my perspective in that way. And so I found that my key to my happiness, and I have realized that happiness is literally a state of being. There's no destination. Like, I'm happy right now doing this episode. 5 minutes later, I'll get a nasty text from someone, like whatever, and then it might change. Yeah. But I find that I'm truly happy with the people that make me feel good about myself. So something that like my older sister always says is like, take inventory of who you're around. So once I did that, honey, my life cleaned up real quick. I was like, why am I around this person?
Wait, that's tea.
Yeah, even family members where I'm like, I don't necessarily feel the best around you. No judgment. It's not a conversation because I'm just not that type of person, but because also who am I? Like maybe they're going through a journey as well, but I can't put myself in that environment anymore, whatever that is. And a lot of that has to do once you graduate from, it's amazing what friendships you maintain once you're not forced to see each other in the hallway anymore.
Ooh, let's talk about it.
Right?
For real.
Yeah, like, for real. And who actually supports you and, reaches out to you, not just for the holidays or a birthday, but like who really, really reaches out to you. And so I found that truly my happiness, I think, comes from like my peace. And whatever that means. Yeah. Like I actually found that like when I was in college, I found, they tell you on social media and everywhere that you're supposed to be out and about and like kikiing and partying and stuff like that. Yeah. And then I found out like, no, take inventory of how you feel when you're out. For me, I don't necessarily enjoy it. Yeah. I love a game night, right? Yeah. I love drinks. Let's do some meals at my house. Let's do a movie night with like an intimate group of people, but actually being out. And I'm not saying I'm not going to do it ever again, but truly the times I've been out in the streets, essentially. Yeah, really. I just don't actually enjoy it. So what am I doing? Some people do. Yeah, but I'm like, it's not. I'm trying to be something that I'm not. Exactly. You know what I mean? So and now it's like it's truly my peace, and I find that I'm loving myself more. I'm not there yet, but enjoying my own company. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's a really cool and beautiful thing to be. And I hope that a lot of first gens allow their space to do that because we're just come from trauma and we're just grinding and stuff. I'm like, well, no, I don't want you to get to the mansion and then you're just miserable because then what's the point? Exactly. You know what I mean? Ooh, that's deep, yeah, absolutely. Is trying to find. I would advise you this: try to find happy as you get to happy, rather than it being a destination. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And really think about a vibe. Looking back on it, the happiest you probably were was the journey to get there. Like for example, getting your degree in college, right? You said you graduated from VCU. Yeah. I graduated from ODU. Looking back, graduation was cool. Okay. Yeah. But it was actually the 4 years of the partying, the late night studying, the sleepovers, the games, the like late night trips to 7-Eleven, like all the things with your friends, not the actual diploma. Yeah, because then that's just the end. Right. Like has nothing to do with the journey. Exactly. And even that, wow, okay, that's a whole analogy. We work all that. Get into it. We work all that to get to the end. Speaking in school, like for the diploma, that's like with life. Sometimes we like ignore what we're doing to get to that last, here you go thing. But in reality, the journey is what builds us and the people who are around us. And the inventory, like that, I'm going to keep with me because that's deep. And that just unravels into you're not being who you are. Take inventory of how you feel because you're not even conscious of like what you like and what you don't like. Right. You're just like going on autopilot. Yeah. Shout out to my sister. Yeah. Yeah, for real. Yeah, she really said that. Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk a little bit more on inventory in just a second. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back after these short messages, guys. All right, guys, we are back. So we were talking about taking inventory, right? Which I know we were talking about happiness, but I also want to go, I think we're getting into a good spot about inventory. The one thing I want to mention about taking inventory of your life is it's not, I don't want it to be like a thing where it's a blameful thing for the people around you. It's almost like, for example, if you make me feel a type of way, right? I have to take responsibility for the fact that I'm allowing you to make me feel that type of way. Until I have the tools to do that and control that, I have to exit myself from the room. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not just like, well, you make me feel this way, because it's like, babes, control your emotions at some point. You know what I mean? Like, we're all adults.
And why are they affecting
you
why
are they triggering you that way? So until I figure out why it's triggering me, I'm going to exit left.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I mean by taking inventory of that. Because I feel like when we're younger, we have these certain patterns that just feel familiar to us.
Yeah.
And that's why our parents behave that the way, because it's familiar to them. They had that from their upbringing, right? And we don't even have to talk about their upbringing. That's a whole other thing. Shout out to my parents. Love you so much.
Shout out to them.
Yeah. But again, taking inventory of that. And sometimes it's tough. Like, I mean, I remember I used to cry because the taking inventory was distancing myself from a face that is very familiar to me.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And how painful that can be, you know what I mean?
Painful. It's like, I was talking about this the other day. I guess like realizing relationships aren't real, like in the way that you think it is, you know?
Or how you imagined it. Yeah.
Just like the reality of what it is. Because of course, before you're sitting there realizing maybe the things, and it's not about the other person. It's never about the other person.
It's never about the other person.
It's never blame or fault. It's just like, I need to do what's best for me.
Right.
And if this is not adding to me, I need to leave. But it's not personal, and you still have love. And it's like, people always, I don't like how they connect, or like it's a synonym saying like, if I don't want to be around you, I don't like you. Or if it's not healthy for my energy, like if internally I feel something, that's not anything I can even control if I'm around certain people, like, you know?
Right.
And I'm
literally
like,
can't control
it's just not good for me.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Yeah. And I've had some like awesome friends or family members that they understood their distance. And that actually made me, I continue myself to distance from them, but it actually made us come closer together eventually later on, because I was like, man, your unconditional love for me was not my replying back quickly or anything like that. You knew I had to do what's best for me, and I told you what's best for me is not being around you. Yeah. You accepted that. And so that made me see you in kind of a different light, and also the energy kind of changed. I was like, you allowed me to go through because again, it has nothing to do with the other person. It's my triggers and things that I didn't know, like things. Someone might say something and I'm like, oh, that triggered me. Did not know that was back there. Yeah. I have to figure that out till I do that. Because I obviously want to be in rooms where I'm always kind and respectful and all those things. Yeah. And if I'm being triggered, that might be compromised. So I have to step out until I like figure it out. Right. That is not something, I learned that from therapy, guys. That is not something that is something that we exercise in our culture. Yeah. A lot of times, first gens, we kind of bottle it up and hold it all in until it kind of blows up. So I recommend talking about it.
Talk about it, please.
Yeah.
It's healthy.
Yeah. Even saying it out loud, if you're alone in your own room, like that can also help as well. Yeah. So do you agree that, that there's a state in which you could just be happy?
Like without no movement, just like there's a space where I could be in my life where I would just be
right.
Like, yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, I don't know. Now I'm thinking, do I really even think about happiness? I don't know if that's anything that's like, I think my brain, like I'm just happy all the time because I know things could be worse, you know? So my mindset is more so like, I don't really let things bring me down. Even the worst things I don't really let affect me or happiness. I feel like it's a choice. Mm-hmm. And if I choose to be happy, even during like things that are not going well in my life, it's just showing like the strength that I have mentally to not let things break me. Now, not saying that that makes anybody weak, but for me and what I want in my life and where I'm trying to go, I'm like, I have to be strong, you know? Mm-hmm. And like, that's the same thing with knowing your purpose. For me, it's like, if my purpose is this and I know this is the type of person I need to be to really be able to, you know, do this. Yeah. I have to become this person who is, I can't let little things, you know, like affect my happiness, even things that might seem huge, because it's going to deter me from the bigger purpose. So, yeah, I don't even, I don't know. I'm just talking. I'm like, sense?
No, you are. Yeah, you are. But, so are there certain things that do bring you joy? Like, I'm sure music brings you joy.
Definitely. Music, my man brings me joy.
Oh, I love that.
Family. Like, whenever I go back home to my family, it's just like, so grounding. It's just like, these are my people for real, you know, like no matter what, they just get you. And it's just a different feeling.
Talk about it.
Like, it's just,
And no matter, do you have any siblings?
Yeah.
Girl, they, no one will know you and what you've experienced other than like your siblings, like regardless of what. And like when real ish hits the fan, like family who I'm calling as my siblings, like when real shit hits the fan and I need like help. Yeah. So like, definitely give your roses to, your family. Now talking about your music, where did that stem from?
So I don't really know. It's just kind of like me writing my own music, obviously from childhood, but it was just kind of a weird thing because, you know, our family.
Oh, really? You wrote when you were younger?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I just did it. I didn't really, there wasn't like I want to be a musician. It was just, writing was like my first language. Then like I found out I could sing at some point when I was like younger. So that's just something I did, but it wasn't even like an open thing. It was like something I did in my own time, which back then, whatever I was going through, it probably helped me process things. Yeah. You know, when looking back, it was like more my therapy back then. And the moment for me, like I wrote a song for my mom for Mother's Day because I was like dead broke and I didn't have anything. And that was the first time I showed my family like that I actually, I don't know, did music, sang, whatever. I mean, they loved it. They had me singing it at every family thing.
Oh, really?
Whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, it still wasn't girl, go be a musician. It was still girl.
Kiki at the Mahaba.
Kiki, it's cool. Yeah. Like it's cool, but girl, get back to school. So literally, like I'm telling you, my story with music, I was in college, VCU, sophomore year. I decided to do an internship while obviously doing my own music on the side, which is how the engineering thing and all that happened. Literally just putting one foot in front of the other. I never sat here and was like, I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to be a producer. I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to get over my fright of being in front of people or speaking my truth. Yeah. Because sometimes we grow up in a community where it's like, there's a right and wrong thing to be said and don't say the wrong thing.
Talk about it.
And sometimes you get scared. You don't want to talk because you're like, if I say the wrong thing, I don't even really know what the wrong thing is.
Right.
Like they'll be like, that's wrong. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
So that thing, I really had to like break those things down, have conversations with my parents, with my mom. Like, this is who I am. Like, I don't know who, maybe the box that I've been put in, but now I'm feeling like, in a box. I had to tell my mom that like I'm feeling like I'm in a box now and I can't be in this box. This isn't who I am, you know? And her understanding me and being open, like she supports me. She is still trying to see like what it's gonna be, but she definitely supports me and she's always asking how she can help, and it's definitely a change from what it was because they're like, girl, what is he doing? But yeah, I think them understanding the purpose too, like trying to get your parents to understand like it's not just this is play. They're like, go get a job. Like, what are you doing?
Play is so funny. Yeah, you're like, girl, they just seen you kiki.
Literally.
Like, when are you going to pay these bills? Like, that's so true.
They're like, are you done?
Yeah.
Are you still
and like,
going?
when you put it that way, it's like, how can they not be like, can you please go get a job? Because all they want is for you to be okay and to take care of yourself. Like that's all they want. You know what I mean? So no one is wrong in these conversations, but they have to see how our frustration can be when we see a vision and we are no longer in a war zone. Like we are in America and you came here for a reason. And like, you know, we could breathe a little now. You know what I mean?
Literally.
Like take a breath, babes. Like it'll be okay. You worked this hard to get us this far, so let me take it farther. You know what I mean? Ooh, yeah, that is so funny. You're like, they just think it's play. I'm like, yep. My parents just think we're kikiing over here.
Literally, like.
That is so funny. So you mentioned that your mom does support you in your music. Was that always a case?
Well, this is the thing with me, like I've never made myself the like main attention. One point I did tell her I wanted to sing and she told me, girl, actually, it was crazy. I was going to tell her I wanted to sing. Somehow she knew and told me before.
Moms always know.
They know. It's crazy. Before it even came out of my mouth, she was like, don't tell me you want to sing. And then after that, I was just like, no. Then that kind of killed my dream a little bit. Not going to lie. Killed it. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to school, just do whatever I have to do.
Yeah.
Type until the opportunity presented itself. And then I'm like, is this God? I don't know. Like, I kind of gave up on my dream, or I guess let my vision rest because you see your parents' you know, on pedestals and whatever they tell you is law. So if you're telling me this isn't right at that time in my life, I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
I trust what you're saying.
And that's real. That's real.
Yeah. So when I realized, when the opportunity presented itself and I'm like, okay, I dropped this thing. I wasn't going to do it. Now it's here. Am I just going to like not do it now? It kind of seems like it's God making a way for me, you know, in something that I was not even intentionally trying to do. So when I took the step, I was like, whatever my parents say. And the thing with my mom was I ended up staying in Richmond after VCU or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing too, because remember the boomerang? She's like, you're coming back home. Like, what are you doing?
She was ready for you, babe.
Oh yeah, she's like, girl, snap your fingers.
Right.
But I was like, she told me, throw my fleece to God. She's like, if you want to stay, you know, baby, don't play with it.
Love that.
So she was like, throw your fleece to God, ask him
throw your fleece to God.
That's the only way she would let me, you know? Our parents are very...
I love that.
Yeah. I love that woman.
Girl, don't make me cry.
For real. I'm like, without her.
Okay.
But she was like, throw your fleece to God and ask him for 3 things. If he gives you all 3 things, then I will say yes, and I know it's supposed to happen for you, or somehow this will make sense.
Right, okay.
So then I threw my fleece. Obviously, I needed money because I needed an apartment. I didn't have a job. I was interning. I was just like, I don't know. I'm just going to throw a fleece, and if it works, it works. Somehow the money came. Somehow everything I needed came. When I tell you, like, in 2 weeks of me throwing my fleece,
that is insane.
Money in my account, like, everything I needed just came. And then my mom, after that point, even though she's still kind of like, you know, she's like, you threw your fleece, so now I have to support you. And
it's come from the high power. Like, how can you argue that?
Exactly. Babes? I was like, thank you for giving me that, God.
That is such a beautiful story.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Throw your fleece.
Wow. Everybody throw your fleece. Throw your fleece, because it's real.
Can you really quickly elaborate on that? What does that mean, throw your fleece?
So I was like praying to God in my head. First of all, I don't know anybody's beliefs, but I feel like the devil can hear you, right? When you speak out loud. And I don't know if you're faith-based or whatever. I'm faith-based, I'm Christian, so this is where I'm at with it. You know what I'm saying? Throwing your fleece to God, talking to God and saying, if you want this for me, or she said, for this to happen, what do you need? Think about what you need. And I was like, okay, even if it's impossible, I need like 2 months of rent, you know, somehow this has to be in my bank account. I don't know how. I'm going to need to be disciplined in this way. Like, I forget exactly what my fleeces were, but anyways, 3 things that were like itemized that I had to see, not like I could make it maybe be that. Like if I say I need a certain amount of money in my bank account by this point, if I don't have this, God, you do not want me to do this.
Gotcha.
You know, I need to, or it could be anything, even something miraculous that possibly wouldn't be possible. I don't know. God's just crazy.
I mean, yeah, and girl,
don't talk about my Lord and Savior.
Okay, we are going to take a quick break because I want to be off on a cliffhanger. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back after these short messages. All right, guys, we are back. So we just started talking about God, which I'm already loving. So you're talking about throw your fleece to God. Yeah. What I wanted to mention was that in those times where I was like, little help, when he shows up, he also shows off. Yeah. Every time. Every freaking time. And even times where I thought, there was a moment in my life where, just to be frank, I thought God forgot about me, which is so sad. Can you imagine the darkness that I was in? Yeah. And that wasn't the case at all because of what I later learned later in my life. Yeah. I commend you for, one, sharing that story, but also kind of like, cause you know, your parents are these like superheroes when you grow up. Yeah. And then when you grow up and you get stronger in your faith, you realize like, yes, they are, you know, like we love our parents here and, you know, they're everything I am is because of them. But I mean, really the person who's guiding me really is only one source, you know what I mean? Yes. And, at some point, sometimes what you're being told from your faith and what you're learning with God is completely different or might not look the same as what your parents are saying. That can be very confusing. You know what I mean? So I commend you for being like, babes, this is what I'm going to be doing. And then once those 3 things came, which is insane.
Yeah, it really is. I think about it. That's why even as you're going through your process, you know, as you're coming up and you're struggling, you're like, you know, should I be doing this?
Yeah.
I mean,
Girl,
we have that thought every day. Like,
every day.
Because the other life is easier. We have degrees, like,
right.
Maybe. But that knowing that, like, I'm not just making decisions based upon what I want, even though it is what I want.
Yeah.
But it's because God told me yes. Like, if he told me no, honestly, I wouldn't do it, because, like, I want more of what God wants for me than what I want for myself.
Oh my God. I love, yes. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. Like, I just do, like, it's just harder the other way, you know?
No, but here's the thing is I tried the other way and I limped back.
Exactly. Like, half broken.
Yes. Right? Literally. He's like, yeah, go ahead, go over there. You're going to limp back.
Yeah.
Which Tabitha Brown always says that. She's like, yeah, go over there, but you're going to limp back every single time. Yeah. And here's the thing, and I'm sure you're going to agree. When did you know you wanted to do music? Whether it was like a feeling that you had, or the first artist that you saw, or the voice in your head telling you, like, girl, you can do this.
Oh, I probably knew when I was 13. You know, I knew I wanted to do it. It was other people didn't want me to.
And then how old are you now?
25.
Isn't that not crazy? Yeah. I only said because I had the same thing, is that I knew I was supposed to do this before podcasts were a thing. Yeah. I used to have visions and knew that I really was supposed to be in media. Yeah. But growing up, it's no one's fault but my own. I just saw the people that were celebrating my family were not. Yeah. There's not one person. There's one cousin on my dad's side who's in comedy and stuff, and he's in Ethiopia, so I don't get to connect with him as much as I want to. But everyone else, I mean, literally engineers, EMTs, NPs, nurses, doctors, surgeons. That's literally who is showing up to Thanksgiving and Christmas next week. You know what I mean? Yeah. No. And so when my 6-year-old brain is like, oh, okay, you know, when you're a kid, I'm not like, oh, I want to be a superstar. The only thing I cared about was like, I just want to feel that love and that proudness, if that is even a word, for my parents. Yeah. Oh, how do I do that? Okay, I'm seeing that they're clapping at these people who are, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's all you care about. Yeah. And then you grow up, and then you're kind of like, or there's only muscle memory. You're already doing these motions of like, well, I'm taking these classes. I'm 3/4 ways done with school. Yeah. What I'm going to change and be a sound engineer, literally, like that, you know what I mean? And so people just do it, and like, I've met, in the field that I'm in, I've met doctors who have just been very, like, vulnerable with me at times, and they've shared like, I've only done this for my parents, and they're like 30 years into their careers being, you know, Indian doctor or whatever, and I'm like, that's a long time to be unhappy. A long time, and they don't even know it. Yeah, that's the scary thing. Yeah, right. That's what makes it scary. Like, you have to be self-aware. Right, yeah. Seriously. And here's the thing, though, is that, like, you know, part of our older generation looks at us and we're deemed selfish because of that we're deciding to do that. But that's where I'm saying, like, I've decided to choose my peace. And part of that is, like, you have gotten a direct message from your higher power that this is what you're supposed to be doing. Who can actually argue that? I know. Like, there can't be a discussion. And honestly, that even is a gift from God, that I have that, because I also feel like God knows me. And I sometimes, if too many people around me are saying something, I'll be swayed. I think that also comes from growing up and having to think a certain way. Yeah. Like, if it's too many opinions against me, I will be swayed. Which is why who blames you? Yeah, because imagine if everyone's like, the sky is green, and you're like I guess it has to be. Yeah, like, because at the end of the day, God knows that we have these, and this is just gonna sound funny, we have these pea-sized brains. Like, we're just humans. Like it's rough out here. We are in the trenches. For real. Yeah. So if that means like isolation and focusing on, like, for me, it's really when I'm by myself, that is when I am the closest to him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I'm by myself a lot. Me too. Right? Yeah. But in this day and age, that comes off as weirdo, a loner, all these, like, babes, I go to the movies by myself. I go to dinner by all these things, you know what I mean? And I'm either journaling or, and I travel a lot for work, so I'm able to, like, have these internal conversations with God all the time. Yeah. And so that's amazing. I'm interested to see how, what I find, my experience is that when I decided to do this, which I've talked about before, I mean, 4 years in the making. Like, I feel like I was supposed to be here 4 years ago, which hindsight, looking back, that's not the case at all. You know, God's timing, everything. Yeah. But the journey that I've gone through with doing this has only brought me closer to him, which that is like the stamp of approval that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Right? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, this is fun, guys, and you see me like posting and all this stuff, but this is actually terrifying as well because it's my time, it's my investment, meaning my money. Exactly. It's, you know what I mean? Yeah. And there's fear of rejection, judgment, the comments,
misunderstanding.
Talk about it. You know, in my next goal in this next chapter of my life is being okay with being misunderstood. Yeah. Like, and that's, people say like, oh, that's easy. That's not easy. Because right now, if you thought I was like an unkind person, I would do everything out of my power to be like, well, no, this is, and it's like, but you know, you're not. So
you know who you, or do you?
Girl. Like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's big. Yeah. So with your music, also, how would you classify yourself? Like, what is your genre of music? If you could look at one artist who, I'm sure you've gotten that question before, who's like, damn, they're doing it this way. I'd love to be my own type of musician, but this is definitely.
I honestly still feel like I'm finding my sound.
Okay.
Like, again, there is intention in my music, but when I started working at the studio, I became very in the background, like helping other people, producing and engineering for others, like doing it for myself on the side. Obviously, that was the point, but also, again, being in the back and helping other people. So I didn't have time to like craft my individual sound because I just like being different. I don't know. I just want to know who I want to be, me, and whatever that is, I feel like is important for some reason. So figuring that out. But when I put it on TikTok, they said neo soul or like alternative R&B. Maybe like alternative R&B, neo soul. I'll probably like, you know, dance within those lines. Yeah. But yeah, if I had to identify it as anything, I'd say that. But I'm still figuring her out. You know
absolutely. So do you enjoy the engineering part of it? Because, girl, when I did a deep dive in your social media, you were really in there. Oh, yeah. You were doing the tweet. I don't even know what to call it. I said, oh, babe, she's in there. And also, sometimes I look and you're the only female person in that room, which shout out to you for doing that. Because it can be, in a lot of the rooms that we're in, it's very much like, you know, a lot of men. And it's a boys club sometimes. Literally. So I commend you because you have to hold your own, and I'm sure you've had, you know, situations where that might have been challenged or whatever, so you have to kind of hold your own. Absolutely. So do you enjoy being on the mic, or do you enjoy doing the sound? And or both?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like a path of least resistance, you know, type of person. So, and I'm kind of like, I don't know what's going to get me to wherever God wants me. First of all, I don't know what that is, but I've also just took the top off, putting like a thing on it and just letting God do whatever he wants to do with me. And with that, it's like allowing myself to do things maybe I wouldn't want to do. Like, it's not like I want to be an engineer. I love it. And I love working with people who have impactful music and are intentional about their art. But there is a lot of parts of it that I don't like. But again, whatever's going to get me to my end goal, if I have to produce, if I have to take pictures, if I have to talking a podcast with my girl over here, don't play with her. Like whatever it is, I'm just opening myself up to doing whatever.
And you're going to be blessed, because what I'm hearing is that you're putting in the work and you're being disciplined. Oh, and wow. You know what I mean? No, right? Because if something very small, why the hell would God grant me my wishes if I can't even be disciplined enough to make my bed in the morning? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Those little things, right? Like when you walk down the street and you see a piece of trash, but your ego's like, I'm not going to pick that up. And God's like, no, girl, pick that up. Yeah. You're not going to do that. Okay, why the hell would I grant you?
You're disobedient.
Exactly. So I think right now you're just putting in the work and the discipline. Like, how bad do you want it? Even when times that does not make sense. Like whether it's like working at Pizza Hut or what have you, how is that going to get you to being a Grammy-nominated artist? But it's not your job to figure that out.
Exactly. Look, God lays the foundation, okay, baby? Sure. He laid the walkway. I'm just walking.
Just a walk. Just a walk. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm loving this episode. Me too. Last thing is we usually have a Firsties Corner. Okay. That is where people submit questions. You can submit questions at firstiespod anywhere. Social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Pinterest. We're literally everywhere. Snapchat, everywhere. Or you could submit at firstiespod@gmail.com. So one of the Firsties questions here is, how can I talk to my parents about me wanting to choose a career in music and just wanting to be happy? we kind of already answered it. That's why I chose this question. Because you mentioned like that conversation you had with your mom, and I've had a similar conversation with mine. So whatever you feel comfortable sharing, what advice would you give to them? Because here's the thing, I do want to say one thing is that we're on the other side, but what we're talking about is actually not easy. And sometimes like pots and pans might go across the table. You know what I mean? Like it's, our haberdasher culture is very real, and our parents worked this hard to get us here. And can you imagine we're supposed to be a doctor or a nurse, and then you're like, hey, I want to be a rapper or a musician or a podcast host. They're like, huh? Which they don't understand the social media world, so they don't get it. So I just want to preface with that, but go ahead. What advice would you give?
For one, I feel like we need to know our parents. You know what I'm saying? And like understand their level of understanding, right? They're not as lucky as us. They didn't get to do like self-development, be self-aware. They were like, had kids, you know, they're not, the stuff we're mentally doing through our 20s, our parents, I don't feel like they ever got to do.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So like understanding they're not coming from a place of, you're not good enough, you can't do this, I don't see you being successful. It's more so like they just don't understand it. Yeah. And it's really love, and it's really like I feel like you're gonna crash and I don't know what you're doing. So like I said, if you're gonna be willing to have the conversation, you have to be willing to hear whatever they're gonna say back, because they're your parents, whether it's right or wrong, and be able to hear it in a way that's gonna help you. Like you have to be able to like, I don't know.
Perspective.
Yeah. And like, I guess transmute it in a way to where even if it hurts what they're saying, use it in a way that could help you, you know, or try to see where they're coming from, not just the basic line, because they're very blunt, and you know how they say things.
For sure, yeah. It's always how they say it, never what they're saying sometimes. Yeah, I absolutely would agree, and I think if you see in the lens of, like, for example, if I tell you and you know my heart and you know we're best friends and I'm always looking out for you, if I say, hey boo, those shoes ain't it. Yeah. If you're looking at me coming as I'm a hater, you're going to feel like I'm hating.
Exactly.
But if you know, girl, that's my sister. Oh, let me change these shoes. You know what I mean? Exactly. I'm like, oh my God, thank God you told me before I step out. Same thing there. It's like, look at it from that lens rather than like they're coming at you. Yeah. That's literally never the case. And like, I've never bare children, but I can imagine that's the greatest love of this world. And they worked so hard to get you here that why would they want to make you feel in any type of way or anything like that? They just want you to be safe. Like, take care of yourself, be able to be an independent person. Like, that's just...
And survive. Because they don't know how we're going to survive in this world. They're just scared.
Yeah. Because here's the thing. Like, the streets in Addis is crazy. But also the streets in America are crazy.
Crazy.
Different, crazy. But still crazy. Yeah. Right? And they just want... And they see what's happening in the news and stuff. They just want you to be safe. And yeah, that's really, really good advice. And I also say, if the response to you talking to your family is not what you expected or what you wanted, I would say challenge that on yourself. Like, why would you want them? Or like, if you walk into something and you say like that, there's only one response they could give me, then you're not allowing that other partner to then also be in that conversation. You're already like having in your head, like, because that's not fair to them. And then also, if they disagree or it's not a very pleasant conversation, your own and I would say still continue. If you really believe you're supposed to be doing music or whatever the case is, continue to do that. And then when you do become successful and stuff, like you think The Weeknd and Aminé's parents are like, come on, please go back to school. No, they're kikiing, right? Because everything is taken care of, but it took a minute to get there. Yeah, I'm sure at one point Abel's parents were looking at him like, boy, go to school. What are you doing? Yeah. And now he's literally the #1 charting artist.
Let's talk about it.
It's insane. Yeah. And you'll be there too, babes. So that is it on this episode. I want to go like another hour. This is so much fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on. I will be connecting all of her information down below in the description. Please make sure to follow. And if you connect with her, please make sure let us know in the comments below what you guys think about this episode as well. Anything that you want to plug or anything you want to say before we wrap up this episode?
I just want to say thank you so much for bringing me on this platform. To be able to speak to my community and find community in my community. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that does.
I appreciate that. And also what you're doing as a woman, one woman show. Listen, I see what's going on here. Okay. I just want to give you your props. Seriously. I know what it's like, how hard it is. A lot of people don't talk about it, you know, but it's not easy. So what you're doing and what you're building on your back, Like it means something, and it's going to become something because nobody's speaking for our communities in a real way, you know?
Yeah.
So I just want you to know that, like, this is a very intentional thing. I feel it from being here. I'm sure everybody else has felt it. And yeah, I just wish blessings upon the whole thing. Yeah.
God bless you. Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. I'm going to end on that note before I start crying. So make sure you follow, guys, always Firsties Pod everywhere. We post every Monday. You'll be able to get short clips on Instagram and TikTok. So be sure to follow there, Firsties Pod everywhere. That's Firsties Pod. As always, I always end with I always say this is like every episode's like a love letter to my parents, but call your parents, call your family members, everyone. We're only here for a short amount of time. So please make sure you give your flowers while they're here. Take care, everyone. We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.